Shocking reports reveal that Donald Trump may have a plan to replace Congress with his own loyalists if he wins in 2024. The alleged plot suggests that Trump is working behind the scenes to handpick allies who will do his bidding, eliminating any opposition and giving him full control over government. With Trump at the helm, these loyalists would supposedly push his agenda through without debate, making him the most powerful president in U.S. history. According to sources, Trump's strategy involves clearing out established representatives and replacing them with people loyal to him personally, ensuring every law and policy aligns directly with his vision. Critics are calling this an authoritarian power grab, while supporters believe Trump's approach would finally bring real change to Washington. Could this bold move reshape American democracy, or end it as we know it? Stay tuned for all the explosive details, and subscribe for more updates on Trump's next political move. As reports of Trump's alleged plan to overhaul Congress with his own loyalists continue to circulate, the potential implications are raising alarms nationwide. If implemented, this strategy could dramatically shift the balance of power, giving Trump unprecedented control over every branch of government. No longer would Congress act as an independent body. Instead, it could function as a direct extension of Trump's will, pushing through his agenda without challenge or oversight. Political analysts warn that Trump's alleged strategy could effectively bypass the checks and balances that have been foundational to American democracy. With a hand-picked Congress of loyalists, Trump's administration could pass sweeping reforms without facing the usual roadblocks of debate and negotiation. Critics are questioning whether this approach could spell the end of representative democracy, replacing it with a structure that answers solely to the executive branch. Insiders claim that Trump's team has been quietly vetting potential candidates for congressional seats, individuals who are staunchly aligned with his policies and willing to work under his directives. By building a network of loyalists, Trump could ensure that his policies are protected from opposition and potential rollback by future administrations. This approach could make Trump's agenda nearly permanent, setting the country on a new political course for generations. One of the most concerning aspects of this strategy is the potential erosion of independent thought within Congress. Lawmakers would be chosen not for their expertise or diverse perspectives, but for their allegiance to a single leader. This could lead to a government where dissenting voices are silenced and critical debate is effectively shut down, leaving Americans with a Congress that no longer represents their interests. Reports suggest that Trump's inner circle believes a loyalist Congress could expedite policy decisions, cutting down on the lengthy process that often delays legislation. By placing loyalists in Congress, Trump could theoretically fast-track key issues like border security, economic policies, and even constitutional amendments. This streamlined approach, however, comes at a price. Critics argue that it sacrifices the very principles of democratic representation in the name of efficiency. Political observers are speculating on how Trump would handle resistance within Congress. Some believe that even if Trump is re-elected, there will be lawmakers who push back against such radical changes. But with a Congress filled with loyalists, the majority could simply override any opposition, creating a rubber-stamp institution that passes Trump's policies without challenge. This scenario is sparking fears of unchecked power concentrated in the executive branch. Meanwhile, Trump supporters argue that such drastic measures may be necessary to drain the swamp and remove what they view as career politicians who no longer serve the people's interests. They see this loyalist Congress as a solution to what they perceive as government inefficiency and corruption, believing that Trump's chosen allies would bring about true reform. To them, Trump's plan represents a long-awaited shift toward accountability and action. But this vision is deeply polarizing. Opponents warn that replacing elected representatives with hand-picked allies could lead to authoritarian rule, where the government answers only to one leader and not the people. They fear that this plan would transform the U.S. government into something unrecognizable, where laws are no longer crafted through deliberation but imposed unilaterally. Constitutional scholars are already weighing in, questioning the legality of Trump's alleged plan. While it is within a president's right to endorse candidates for Congress, actively restructuring the legislative branch with loyalists could cross legal boundaries. The Constitution was designed to protect against such concentration of power, and experts believe any attempt to stack Congress in this way would face immediate challenges in the courts. The idea of a loyalist Congress is raising ethical concerns as well. Lawmakers are traditionally expected to serve their constituents and act independently of the executive branch, even if they share the same party affiliation. By promoting a Congress that answers directly to him, Trump's alleged plan could undermine the integrity of legislative representation, effectively transforming Congress into a tool of the presidency. As the public becomes aware of these potential changes, protests are beginning to emerge, with Americans expressing alarm over what they see as a power grab. Activists are calling on citizens to rally against any efforts to replace Congress with loyalists, arguing that such a shift would disenfranchise millions of voters. Social media is buzzing with calls to action, with hashtags like #DefendDemocracy and #NotMyCongress trending across platforms. In response, Trump supporters are doubling down, claiming that this strategy is the only way to counteract what they perceive as obstructionism in Congress. They argue that traditional methods have failed to achieve meaningful change and that bold action is necessary to fix a system that they believe has strayed from its founding principles. To them, Trump's plan is a form of justice, an overdue correction to years of government dysfunction. Meanwhile, political experts are analyzing the potential ripple effects of a loyalist Congress. They warn that such a move could embolden future presidents to adopt similar strategies, turning Congress into a revolving door of presidential appointees rather than elected representatives. This could fundamentally alter the nature of American politics, making Congress an extension of whichever administration is in power. The international community is also watching closely, with foreign leaders expressing concern over the possible ramifications of Trump's plan. Democracies around the world rely on checks and balances as a model for governance, and the idea of an executive-controlled Congress could erode America's status as a global leader in democratic principles. Allies are worried that this shift could signal a departure from the democratic ideals the U.S. has championed for centuries. Despite these concerns, Trump remains undeterred. His team is reportedly moving forward with preparations, and they believe that a loyalist Congress could give Trump the freedom to enact sweeping reforms that have been hindered by opposition in the past. The campaign is positioning this plan as a bold step toward a more efficient government, framing it as a necessary evolution for America's future. For now, lawmakers in Washington are scrambling to respond. Some members of Congress are calling for investigations into Trump's intentions, hoping to gain clarity on what this alleged strategy could mean for the country. Others are urging caution, believing that any attempt to interfere with the legislative branch would backfire politically. Yet, Trump's influence over his base suggests that a loyalist Congress might resonate with a substantial segment of the electorate. In the meantime, Trump's potential rivals are using this issue to galvanize their own supporters. Democratic candidates are warning voters that Trump's plan would endanger the foundations of American democracy, urging them to vote against any candidate aligned with this vision. Even within the Republican Party, there is growing discomfort, as some members fear that Trump's approach could alienate moderate voters. Legal analysts predict that if Trump were to follow through with this plan, it would likely face numerous challenges in court. Such a move could lead to a series of legal battles over the boundaries of executive power, potentially reaching the Supreme Court. The outcome of these cases would have far-reaching implications, not only for Trump's presidency but for future administrations as well. Political commentators are speculating on how Trump might attempt to justify this plan to the public. Some believe he would present it as a necessary step to bypass obstructionist lawmakers, framing it as a battle between the will of the people and a dysfunctional government. By positioning himself as the people's advocate, Trump could appeal to voters who are frustrated with Washington's gridlock and eager for decisive action. If Trump's plan to replace Congress with loyalists gains traction, it could mark a dramatic shift in the U.S. political landscape. Voters would need to reconsider the role of their representatives, questioning whether their voices would truly be heard in a government controlled by one leader. This existential dilemma could redefine voter priorities, as citizens grapple with the implications of a Congress that answers solely to the president. Amid the uncertainty, watchdog organizations are calling for greater transparency, demanding that Trump and his team clarify their intentions. They argue that if Trump intends to reshape Congress in this way, the public deserves to know the full scope of his plan. Transparency, they insist, is the only way to ensure that voters can make informed decisions about the future of their democracy. At the heart of the controversy is a question of loyalty. Loyalty to the president versus loyalty to the people. By prioritizing loyalty to one leader, Trump's alleged plan could disrupt the traditional relationship between Congress and its constituents. Lawmakers would no longer be accountable to the voters who elected them, but rather to the president who appointed them, creating a fundamental shift in the nature of American representation. As Trump supporters rally behind his vision, opposing voices are growing louder, warning that a loyalist Congress could silence the diversity of perspectives that define the United States. They argue that America's strength lies in its variety of opinions, and that replacing Congress with hand-picked allies would erase the voices of those who disagree. For them, Trump's plan is a step toward a homogeneous government, one that lacks the dynamism and adaptability necessary to serve a complex society. In this heated political climate, Trump's alleged strategy is igniting a battle for the soul of American democracy. Both supporters and opponents recognize the high stakes, with each side claiming to defend the country's core values. Whether this plan moves forward or is ultimately halted, it has already sparked a national debate about the future of representation and the role of Congress in the 21st century. With public interest at an all-time high, news outlets are covering the story extensively, interviewing experts and lawmakers on both sides of the issue. Media coverage is amplifying the debate, with some outlets framing Trump's plan as a necessary reform, while others decry it as an authoritarian takeover. The divide is only widening as Americans tune in to hear the latest developments. As Election Day approaches, Trump's vision of a loyalist Congress has become a central issue for voters. Some view it as the radical change they've been waiting for, while others see it as a threat to everything they hold dear about continuing. As voters reflect on the consequences of a loyalist Congress, many are questioning how this shift could affect individual rights. Traditionally, Congress has acted as a check on executive power, defending civil liberties against potential government overreach. However, with a Congress composed of loyalists, some fear that protections for freedom of speech, privacy, and other civil rights could be eroded in favor of executive priorities. Trump's strategy, if successful, could set a precedent for future presidents who may wish to consolidate power. Critics argue that this approach could pave the way for leaders to build personal networks within Congress, prioritizing loyalty over qualification and reducing the diversity of thought that has historically guided American policymaking. The potential impact on future administrations could alter the political landscape for decades. Activists are sounding the alarm, pointing to this proposal as a test of democratic resilience. They argue that Americans must defend the integrity of their political institutions and ensure that Congress remains a body that represents the people, not the president. Rallies and town halls across the country are bringing citizens together to discuss ways to protect Congress from perceived threats of executive overreach. Meanwhile, social media is ablaze with debates, with some users defending the idea as a necessary disruption to a broken system, while others warn of creeping authoritarianism. Hashtags like #SaveCongress and #TrumpTakeover are trending, reflecting the polarized response to this plan. Influencers and activists alike are sharing their perspectives, amplifying public awareness and encouraging civic engagement around this crucial issue. International allies are voicing their concerns as well, fearing that a shift in U.S. governance could disrupt global stability. Leaders from democratic nations are wary of the message this could send to authoritarian regimes, which may take inspiration from America's example. For them, a loyalist Congress could symbolize a weakening of U.S. democratic principles, complicating alliances and potentially altering diplomatic relationships. The legal landscape surrounding this proposal is also complex, as scholars continue to debate its constitutionality. The notion of restructuring Congress with loyalists could clash with laws meant to protect the separation of powers. If Trump's team pursues this approach, it is likely to face numerous court challenges, leading to a prolonged legal battle that could define the limits of executive authority. In the halls of Congress, a sense of unease is palpable, as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle consider the implications of a president actively reshaping the legislative body. Some senators and representatives are already taking steps to fortify their positions, building alliances that could counter any attempt to undermine congressional independence. Others, however, fear that such a move could divide the Republican Party itself. Even within Trump's base, there are varying opinions. While many are enthusiastic about the idea of sweeping change, others are cautious, worried that it could disrupt the stability they value. Some loyalists believe that a Congress restructured around Trump's ideals could protect the party's interests long-term, but they recognize the potential risks of alienating voters who view this approach as too radical. Educational institutions are engaging with this topic, hosting debates and forums where students and faculty analyze the potential effects of a loyalist Congress. Political science departments are using the situation as a case study in democratic resilience, encouraging young people to think critically about the structure of government and the role of each branch. This discussion is fostering a new generation of politically active students who may shape the future of U.S. governance. Back in Washington, lawmakers are considering ways to legislate against the potential restructuring of Congress. Some are proposing bills that would prevent presidents from endorsing congressional candidates, while others are calling for ethics rules that would limit the influence of executive power on the legislative branch. These proposals aim to safeguard the autonomy of Congress, though their passage remains uncertain amid rising political tensions. As Election Day approaches, Trump's alleged plan is dominating the headlines, sparking heated discussions at campaign rallies and town halls across the country. Voters are grappling with the question of whether to support a leader who seeks to overhaul the government or to defend the traditional structure of American democracy. The stakes of this election are higher than ever, with the future of congressional independence hanging in the balance. Media outlets are running extensive analyses, with pundits debating whether this strategy is a genuine solution to congressional gridlock or a dangerous power grab. Conservative news sources emphasize the potential benefits of decisive governance, while liberal networks warn of the risks associated with concentrated power. This dichotomy in reporting is only deepening the divide among viewers, who are left to interpret the proposal through their preferred political lens. For Trump, this plan represents the culmination of his vision for a streamlined, loyal government that answers directly to the president. His campaign is positioning this as a pragmatic solution to Washington's inefficiencies, arguing that a loyalist Congress would better serve the American people by enacting policies without delay. However, this stance is proving divisive, as critics accuse Trump of undermining the democratic process to expand his influence. Meanwhile, scholars of history are drawing comparisons to other leaders who sought to consolidate power through structural reforms. They warn that while the idea may seem attractive to those seeking fast results, the long-term impact on democracy could be severe. Examples from other nations suggest that when leaders dismantle institutional checks, it often leads to political instability and diminished freedoms over time. Some citizens are starting grassroots movements to defend Congress, organizing petitions and calling for greater transparency in government decisions. These groups argue that the independence of Congress is essential to maintaining accountability and protecting the rights of the people. By rallying public support, they hope to send a message that Americans are unwilling to relinquish their right to a government that represents them, not just one leader. At the same time, business leaders are weighing in on the proposal, concerned about its potential impact on economic stability. They fear that an executive-controlled Congress could introduce unpredictable policies that may disrupt markets. By centralizing power, this strategy could lead to rapid policy changes that destabilize key industries, creating economic ripple effects that reach far beyond Washington. With the debate raging, some voters are beginning to reconsider their political affiliations, questioning whether their chosen party aligns with their values regarding government structure. This issue is prompting a rare moment of self-reflection in American politics, as people across the political spectrum weigh the costs and benefits of such a dramatic shift. This introspection could influence future elections, as voters seek representatives who prioritize balance over loyalty. In Congress itself, lawmakers are increasingly vocal about their commitment to protecting legislative independence. Many are emphasizing the importance of checks and balances, arguing that they serve as a safeguard against tyranny. These representatives are calling on their colleagues to uphold the Constitution, reinforcing the message that Congress must remain an independent branch, even in the face of potential restructuring. As the story continues to unfold, the public is left with a crucial question. Will Trump's alleged plan to replace Congress with loyalists come to fruition, or will the democratic framework of the United States hold strong against this unprecedented challenge? The answer could shape the direction of American politics for years to come, leaving a lasting impact on the structure and function of government. Stay tuned as we continue to cover this unfolding political drama, bringing you the latest insights, updates, and expert analysis on a story that could redefine the future of U.S. governance. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this explosive topic, and keep watching as we reveal the next chapter in America's ongoing struggle for balance, representation, and democracy.